Hello, everybody, and welcome to the latest episode of Tales from the Fandom. It is almost the Ides of March. I cannot believe that it is March here, and we are. I don't know. How did we get 3 months into 2022 when I still think it's 2020? I don't know. But the fandom keeps trucking on, and I have a guest who was like, hey, I want to be on your podcast. And I said, that makes me happy because you want to be on the podcast. So I have Ash. You might know them as Starry Arcana on Instagram or on other social media. Ash, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I am doing all right. I'm excited to have you join me today. You were one of the people who had reached out when I was like, hey, I need guests for the podcast in 2022. And you're like, I'll do it.
Yeah, just because I'm the kind of person, if you let me talk about any fandom I'm into, I will keep going and going and going. And honestly, I'm super duper happy to be here.
Well, see, and that works because, you know, I need people that are super duper interested in talking about what they love and be like, it makes my job a lot easier. I don't have to hunt people down, be like, will you please be on my podcast? And then see if they write back to me or not. But you were like, I volunteer as tribute.
Not even so much as tribute as a willing participant in every sense of the word.
Oh my goodness. Yes. And I appreciate it so much. Now, I'm very excited, Ash, because there's when you sent your thing over, I was like, I don't know what language a fandom that you're talking about, because I've never heard of some of the stuff that you brought up. I was like, I don't know what this is, and I don't know about this fandom, but it makes it good for me because I get to learn and listen, as do my listeners, to some of these fandoms that you're into, and.
Ooh.
We're going to kick things off with a video game. I think it's a video game series, and it's called
Yes.
Zero Escape.
Yes, Zero Escape. It is something I never expected myself to get into, but when I did, I fell in really, really deep. So basically, the Zero Escape series is a series of 3 visual novel / mystery horror puzzle games, and they're made by the same people who did Danganronpa, World's End Club, etc., Spike Chunsoft. And basically, these 3 games have probably the craziest visual novel plot I've ever heard of, to be completely honest, because just the way that, while like each game, like they were on completely different platforms, starting with the first game, 999, 9 hours, 9 persons, 9 doors, on the original DS, going on to Virtue's Last Reward, which was on the PS Vita and the 3DS, and finally to Zero Time Dilemma on the PS Vita and 3DS. Like, just the console jump in and of itself kind of led to some crazy things going on plot-wise, but even just the way that, despite the big gaps in time when these games were written, but the way that they all kind of flow together in all of its craziness and hijinks, I think, is something that really drew me in to the series at first. Yeah.
Now, how did you find out about this game series? Because I mean, I feel like especially back in like the DS and 3DS days, like I was kind of like, I don't want to be like tuned into what was coming out, but like I'd not heard of them ever.
Yeah, I hadn't either. It was when the PS Vita came out, because what actually ended up getting me to buy the PS Vita was Persona 4 Golden, because of the bright colors and stuff on the advertising. When me as like a middle schooler, high schooler walking to my local GameStop, that was like the first thing I was seeing on some of their signs. But right after Persona 4 Golden was Virtue's Last Reward, actually, because the art for it, like, I swear, like, it's so edgy and almost pretty, well, like, emo in a way of just, like, wait, like, compared to, like, they had, like, Rocket League and, like, really casual games on the Vita, and, even, like, Borderlands, I think, Borderlands 2, like, Rocket League, like, really casual games, and then suddenly the super edgy emo game, like, in the corner, and I was like, whoa, wait a minute, what's that? And even though, like, Persona 4 Golden was my first game, it was the game I bought right afterwards for my system. And upon loading it, I was almost like, I was so confused from just like the plot at first too, because to like give a little bit of context that it is the second game in the series where it's a bunch of people trapped on basically like a space station essentially, and kind of going through some of the similar things that happen in the series, that everybody has a numbered watch and that they have to proceed through these almost escape rooms with lots of puzzles in them to survive. But obviously a lot of people get killed off and things happen and things go wrong. And there's also multiple timeline shenanigans and all these other crazy aspects. But I feel like it was initially that art that really kind of honed me in on wanting to get into the series.
So the art got you in.
Mm-hmm.
When you loaded it up, were you did it meet the expectations that you had for it, or were you just like, what have I gotten myself into?
At first, I definitely felt the what did I get myself into, because especially I didn't realize at the time it was the second game in the series. So a lot of it was like, who are these people? Why are they here? Like, what's going on? While it was initially the art that drew me in the end, the writing completely shined through those initial like cool character designs and cool promo art, because just everything, the way the series writer Kotaro Uchikoshi, the way he sets you up with like a very small idea and a very small scope of just kind of like, you're just a guy, you're in your car on Christmas in this case for this game, and you get knocked out and you're put on a spaceship. You're like, what on earth? Like, why am I here? Where am I going? What am I going to do? From there, the roots, it's a branching storyline. And then based on the decisions you make and who lives and who dies, it goes into 16 endings, I believe. It's got a lot. There's a lot of writing. There's a lot going on. But the way that it branches out, and it made me almost like really think hard on like every decision mattered. Every little thing from voting to side with one character versus another, every single thing mattered. And then I kept, after completing one route and only getting one kind of perspective on how the events, the way that things kind of turned out in this space station happened one way in this particular universe. But what if I jumped back in time to make a different decision? Then I could see from that version of the story how things would play out. And the game would make you do this over and over and over again to go and try to find a way out. And depending, some of the endings, certain characters die or everybody dies, or there's the one where everybody lives. Like, there is just so many ways that the events in the game could play out. And so once you kind of got set on one route, you kept wanting to read more and more and more. And that's what I respect so much about his writing. And it was just, I wasn't expecting the game to kind of play out that way. Because especially, I guess in like real life, when you go into an escape room, you solve the puzzles in the room and you get out and that's it.
Right.
But you don't consider almost, what if I had to keep doing that over and over again? Because in the end, it's not just any game. People just aren't in space to play like puzzles and have fun. No, there's real consequences to the actions made and the decisions made by every single character in the game, and even hidden characters that you don't actually see at first. And it was that really kind of kept me in. And after even finishing that one game, it was when I realized, oh, this is the second game. This isn't the first game. There's more. And so I went back, played the first game, 999, and then the third game when that came out, I think about 2 to 3 years later. And then I was just completely hooked. Absolutely completely hooked. And even, I guess, despite how serious everything was, the one thing that also kind of made it a little easier to get through everything was that the series writer definitely has some like key characteristics about his writing that I feel like, I don't know, that just make the whole experience really entertaining. Like, people make memes about his writing as like how much like the fandom will like go crazy about it. But even, well, you'll be like, at first you might think, oh, if you're solving like an escape room, like, I guess obviously the characters would be talking to one another, but the way in which conversations go are always like pretty ridiculous.
Okay.
In the sense that like, so sometimes a character might be in the middle of a puzzle and then be like, so say you're like walking on a path and a snail is in front of you. Which way do you decide to go? And depending on how you answer, you're like, well, if you went to the right, you would have just kept jogging in the park and you would have had a lovely day. But if you went to the left, you would have been killed by like an axe murderer. And there's nothing you could have done about it. And that's because of the butterfly effect. And then they go on a tangent about the butterfly effect for like 30 minutes. And it's like, why why is the writing like this? But in some ways, it's a weird trait in the writing, but it's so interesting at the same time. Because in so many ways, it feels conversational. But yet, and like the way that the tangents will go sometimes are really, they really just kind of go way out of left field. But I found that I just kept wanting to know more. I'm like, wait, what does this snail have to do with the butterfly effect? Or just like random things. Like even there was one painting in the first game that it was meant to look like almost like an ink blot. Like if you were in like an insane asylum, to say like, what do you see in the ink blot image? But
Right.
in this case, they took it as if like the blot image in game almost looked like a guy on a horse, like a knight. But the main character also has an option where he can pick to say, oh, this is the Funya-rimpa. And at first the other characters are like, what the hell is a Funya-rimpa? Like, what is that? And he's just like, well, God, I don't know. I made it up on the spot, but I think that's what the ink blot looks like. And just it became a meme because it's like, to anyone else, I'm like, I just see a knight. Like, I don't see whatever this strange object, like almost like a creature with like 4 limbs, like doing some weird motions. But I found like really iconic moments like that really, really fun to read, and just to like break up the really heavy themes of like every choice has a consequence and your choice determines whether your friends live or die, to silly things like this, or just making me Google things I didn't think I would ever be Googling just to kind of learn more about them. And somehow all of those things being vaguely or not so vaguely being heavily related to the plot too.
Oh my goodness! Now I want to mention while you were talking about it, every time you'd gear up for something, there'd be like you'd be like laughing a little bit, and I love that. I love like you got the memory going, and it's just triggering the whole like hee hee hee. Like I absolutely love that. Like that to me means like this game series made such an impact on you that it's just. You're just thinking of like all the wackadoodle stuff that comes up in the game. That's awesome.
Even but I guess even though I will go on and on and on about this series writing because I think it's incredible, it's hilarious, and I'm trying really, really hard not to spoil things because it's very easy for me to do so, just because a lot of the characters actually from the first to the third game, they do make reappearances, which like obviously when seeing the new game coming out and you're like, ooh, the gang's back, like it just made me even more excited to play the next one. But even with the writing being as great as it is, oh my God, those puzzles are really hard. They're really, really hard. I needed to look up how to do a lot of them because I guess unlike games like a Professor Layton, for example, like they're tricky, but you can kind of figure them out. They're hard. Like this is meant for the people who are like Sudoku masters, or just like they go out of their way to do really hard, crazy puzzles, because some of them stumped me completely.
What kind of puzzles are they presenting? Because I mean it's in like on the 3DS or the Vita or the regular DS. Like what were they giving you for puzzles?
So it would kind of range. Probably one of the easier puzzles that I remember, which for some reason was at the end of the first game. It made you turn your DS upside down to do Sudoku because of a major plot point that I'm not going to bring up too, which even that itself, it's like, why are you playing Sudoku upside down? Like, why is that a big plot moment? But it is, I'm telling you. It would go from things like that to a lot of it being like, oh, a door's locked. What are you going to do? You have to figure out the key code to it, and you'd have to hunt down in different areas of the room you needed to escape from, kind of like key codes to figure out the puzzles there, or finding keys to go unlock certain things to solve those puzzles. So in the end, like, I guess things that are generally closer to how a normal escape room would run, but sometimes the question would kind of be like, okay, I'm in this room, my character's trapped, I need to get out. Where do I even start? Because of needing to locate one item here or there. But I feel like the community's been really good at making really, really clear guides to kind of know where to go and to not get stumped. But even it's reminding me now of probably the hardest puzzle in all of the games, which was in the second one, Virtue's Last Reward, where you enter a room, it's completely white. There's grid lines on the walls to show that there may be things in these squares, but you don't know what. There's almost a touchscreen in the middle of the room, and you have to basically select blocks in a certain pattern to open up puzzles out of the walls that initially seemed blank, and then solve those puzzles within them and kind of go through. And there was a whole elaborate system to it, but to only select certain cubes, almost as if you were playing like Minesweeper.
Okay.
And then take them out of the wall, solve the puzzle, and then continue on until you unlocked the entire room. And that one was that was when I was like, oh no, how am I gonna do this? Because I had no clue. I'm like, there's a screen and there's white cubes and there's nothing else in the room. And even in the plot, and even then they found a way to like tie it into the plot that is like, oh, they found, it was like some like, oh, based on all the timelines we were in the one that like it was a 1/16th chance of getting out of this room because otherwise they didn't know what to do and they just sat there and died. Like it was, it's crazy. It's crazy, but at the same time, like, I guess for me, after getting through the puzzles, because I was more in it for the plot. I will be completely honest. I am not, I'm not a puzzle person, but I would get through these really, well, ranging from semi-difficult to very difficult puzzles to get to the plot, and it was a wild ride is how I would describe it. But if you're like a really intense, like if you enjoy just solving really hard puzzles, this is absolutely the series for you, which I wish I was that kind of person, honestly.
That is not me. And like I like the visual novel style of stuff. So I could do that, but then I'd be like, I need help. Please walk me through this for the next like 20 minutes because
right.
I'm just not that kind of person. I don't know. I see people do like the puzzle challenges on different like reality shows. I'm like, yeah, I can't do that. My brain just it's not there anymore.
Or especially when even some of the puzzles, like I didn't know this because I'm not really like the biggest puzzle person either, but even some of the methods used to like basically like make certain words turn into code, like numeric code or whatever, like there's like known methods that people like who are fans of puzzles can learn so that they know how to approach those puzzles and like basically like decrypt what was being said, which I'm like, oh, I wish I knew how to do that, because that almost feels like spy level like knowledge of like just how to solve any sort of challenge thrown at you, like no matter what form it shows up on, like well written down. Like that to me that's so cool.
Well, the video game series sounds really neat. I did look it up, and it is available on Steam. So if people are like, I don't have a DS or 3DS or Vita, definitely you can get it now. I don't know how they translate the puzzles with this, the 3DS side of things, but
yeah, that's the one thing with the Steam version. The first game, 999, I'm really bummed about it, but in the end, it is only a visual novel on the Steam version specifically.
Okay.
It is only for that game. The rest of them you can play through as normal because of the fact they were on Vita, so they made a version with just one screen. But 999, unfortunately, no puzzles are included on the Steam version. But at least Spike Chunsoft regularly puts those games on sale. So even like I would watch out for sales to get them all for pretty cheap too. So yeah.
Very cool. And I'll make sure if you're listening and you're interested in the game, I'll link it in the show notes. That way you can just click on it and get taken to I think it's like a bundle of them. I'll link it so that way people can check it out, because it sounds really interesting. And I saw that they're like I pulled it up, and it looks like there's voice acting in some of the games, possibly.
Yes. So for the second and third games, I know in their original versions they had both Japanese and English voice acting. I haven't played the Steam version of the first game, so I'm not entirely sure if it's voice acted. I think they did, but otherwise, yes, the other two games fully voiced. Voice work is great. They have really good saves for both casts, both the English and Japanese casts.
Yeah, I recognized one of the voice actors from the English side of things. I was like, oh, okay. Well, I mean, I know that person, but that's the extent of my knowledge is I know that person.
They're using the Danganronpa money to good use by getting the really good voice actors. But
now out of curiosity, because you mentioned the Danganronpa. I've heard of that game, but why have I not heard of Zero? Like, what's up with that?
I feel like it's because of just the cross of genres that are kind of thrown together in these games. I'm not quite sure if they're like the most appealing to a lot of people, especially because it's like, even with visually, it's a vaguely in an anime style, but not really. And because I guess it leans more towards like real life and kind of less like cartoony or like lighthearted and anime like, versus like, even for example, like Danganronpa, the character designs are so iconic because of just like how much the series takes from like general anime tropes and whatnot. Zero Escape really doesn't do that. It's more like if you've heard of it and you're willing to accept like it's vaguely anime, but it's really not, and you're okay with that, I feel like those are the kind of people that get into it. But considering how much anime has kind of grown in popularity and scope, and just those are the games that tend to sell in the genres that, like, for visual novels especially. Like I can't really think of a visual novel that's not somewhat tied to like just anime, or like making your like ideal harem or whatever it might be, like in a dating sim, for example. Like that genre, I feel like it's always somehow kind of tied to anime. So because of how far Zero Escape is kind of leading away from that, I feel like that's why it's really not as well known. But that's definitely not to say that it's not high quality or it's not interesting, because I guess it's more like you almost have to experience it to get it, to some extent. Like even I could bring up a million anecdotes about kind of the crazy things that go on in the game, but that it's not until you go in and play it that it starts to kind of line up of like, oh, okay, this is the direction they're trying to go with it, or oh, it's more like solving, like I guess leaning, it's still very much like fantasy, but very much closer to like realistic fantasy versus like anime fantasy with like people flying around and using magic and that sort of thing.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, if you've listened and you're interested in the game, check it out, and definitely let us know if you pick it up, because I'd love to hear people's experiences with it. It's definitely something that's going to go on my wish list, so that way I can just at least remember like, hey, I'm interested in it. And then then Steam will say like, oh, it's for sale, check it out, and I'll be like, oh, okay. I'll do that.
You can join in on the hijinks on Twitter. Like there was even this will be probably my last anecdote. Even the creator kept getting messages from people about like fans asking, oh, is this certain character like this orientation or that orientation? And for a while he just didn't respond. But as he's constantly on Twitter and he kept getting questions about a character in the first game a lot, Snake, he held a Twitter poll asking people, do you think Snake is gay? And he left the poll up for 24 hours and people said yes. And he's like, you know what? Twitter voted, they decided Snake's gay. And,
there you go.
But even and people kept making memes about it until the end of time. But it's just, I love the community that from playing this pretty obscure puzzle mystery visual novel, and that even the writer goes along and almost feels the fire sometimes, and that it's really fun to be a part of that community.
That's awesome. That's awesome. That I gotta look into it. Everything I gotta look into. It's always what happens every podcast. Gotta look into this thing that I just learned about, and now I get to learn about another thing, because you brought up popularity with like the game title and the like what's was presented in it. And you mentioned anime,
Mhm.
and there's an anime, and there's also a manga that you're into that,
Mhm.
again, not heard about, don't know it, not sure what it is, and it's a Katekyo Hitman Reborn.
Yes.
What is it? What am I getting myself into if I start going down this rabbit hole?
Oh, you're going to be jumping into 205 episodes of shonen anime and more shenanigans, but in a completely different sense. So Katekyo Hitman Reborn, or in the West, it's just called Reborn under Shonen Jump, was a manga written, and the anime came out around 2006, I believe. But basically, I almost see it in my mind as like the shonen anime that if we had like the internet capabilities and like social media like we do today, I feel like it would be a lot more popular. But in the end, it was like a shonen jump manga and anime, respectively, that got really big in Japan, but then kind of died out here, which even I guess is not really to the fault of the series itself, but really just localization, hijinks, and I guess some things that I don't know if we ever really got the answers to as to why this manga stopped getting translated at a certain point, or why it only became available on Crunchyroll for its last season and whatnot, too. So there are a multitude of factors as to
Oh my
why,
goodness.
yeah, the localization was a wild ride for this series, for sure.
Now, when you refer to localization, that means like the translation from like Japanese into English, or is it
Yeah.
okay?
Mhm.
So it was it like not good, or just not matching up with what the story was, or was it just like poorly done?
I wouldn't fault the actual translation of the series itself because unlike if I were to ramble about JoJo, the Golden Wind monstrosity that was the original manga translation, it wasn't an issue of the actual meaning of the words from Japanese to English being messed up. It was more of how the series was actually brought over to the United States that was an issue because so originally it was Shonen Jump was translating it, but the manga. But even if I were to like go into the plot a little bit, it made a really big jump from the beginning being very much a comedy series about a kid who was bad at everything, met a baby mafia boss. Well, not a mafia boss, a baby mobster, and he's like, "I'm gonna make you good at everything." Because you're technically related to the Italian mafia, and I'm gonna make you great. And the kid's just like, whoa, what? Why? I'm like thinking that he was just a regular Japanese kid, but in reality being related to these mobsters in Italy that he didn't know about, and meeting a whole wacky cast of other mobsters, but also just really extraordinary high school students. Well, middle school. Oh, now I'm messing that up. It was middle school students. He's in middle school. Yeah. Other kids that were miraculous like middle schoolers, but in the end were really impressed by the whole mafia situation and the craziness that ensued. But because of that really big shift from it being very much a comedy series to, as is with most Shonen Jump series, like a battle series where it's like, ooh, who's this new evil guy for the week? We're gonna go fight him. But I guess with more cool powers introduced later in the series ended up only getting translated through volume 16, when by the time the series ended, many years later, it had almost 42 volumes of manga
Oh my
that
gosh.
just did not get translated officially. And even to this day, despite the series being completely over, there's no translation from Shonen Jump past volume 16.
Wow.
Yeah.
That seems strange to like just stop in the middle, but I guess
Mhm.
if people aren't buying it or paying for it, maybe that's the issue,
Yeah.
but that's still that like that wouldn't sit right with me, but being just like, okay, we're gonna put out the translations for this, and then it's like, okay, you know what, never mind, whatever.
Mhm. But part of me almost wonders if it's because it was coming out at a time when Naruto was on Toonami, Bleach was out, there was Full Metal Alchemist, there were all these really big shonen series that just completely blew up in the US, and it kind of got overshadowed by them. So even though I guess in the end Crunchyroll got some of the later seasons of the anime and finished translating it for when it stopped airing on TV Tokyo, but after that, and they went back and eventually translated the anime, the manga didn't get the same treatment. In fact, like the way I read it after finishing the anime was through fan translations completely.
Okay.
And like that, they did a really good job, and like always like really like up to date. They're like, oh, the manga came out yesterday in Japan, boom, next day translations are up.
Woo.
So I was always just like, yeah, let's go. And I really, it was just a really cool series. And that, I don't know, I feel like the people who do love it, again, they're just like, get like really crazy about it, because there's just, to me, the one thing I found really cool about Reborn was just like the characters just make the series really, really fun to read. Because I guess because it started out as a comedy, like they do weird things. Like there is a kid who walks around in a cow suit, and he's always making like poop jokes and like falling on the ground crying or like yelling about something. But he also has a bazooka he can jump into and suddenly turn 10 years older if he wants to feel like cool, like a cool, sexy anime guy and important. But because I guess there's weird characters like that from when it was a comedy, when it switches over to like battle manga mode, where there's a part where the characters go into the future and they have to go save their future selves so that they don't kind of accidentally wipe themselves out of existence and things like that. Yeah, it makes a turn. Like they can still bring out the funny qualities that like made them, like, I guess, memorable from the beginning, even when it was a comedy series.
How did you even get into this series?
And that actually, I can put the blame on one person in particular. I had a friend back in middle school who we met at a summer camp. Basically, like we were both playing string instruments and we were practicing every day, but to get better at music. And even I didn't realize it until a couple of weeks in, where I saw her looking at anime pictures on her little like flip phone. And I was like, hold on, wait a minute, you like anime too. And at the time, I only liked Naruto, really, because that was what was on Toonami. And I would, even at that time, I would run after school every day to go watch Naruto. But she knew all the series that were really big in both South Korea and Japan, because that's where she was from. So a lot of series I got introduced to because of her, which included Reborn and some other magical girl series like Shugochara, which that one wasn't as good, so I'm not going to go into it. But even Cardcaptor Sakura I got into because of her. And it was like her favorite show in the world. She's like, you've got to watch this. This is so cool. And even like bringing up the wacky cast almost similarly to how I just did. And even at the time I was like, whoa, what the heck? That's so weird, but I want to know more. So even then I think this was the series that I would go sit down on YouTube and watch in Reborn episode 1, part 1, part 2, and part 3. And I did that for the first 30 episodes of just trying to hunt down episodes of this anime before I got taken down by YouTube, and then just trying to jump onto the next one until I learned what illegal anime streaming service websites were, and I knew where to go from there. But at least those it was a lot easier to watch the episodes all in one go compared to YouTube.
Right, yeah. And you know, you got that dicey quality on YouTube too, where it's like, oh yeah, I don't know.
It was 360p all the way. Absolutely.
Oh my goodness! Now I'm looking at because I pulled it up on the computer. I'm looking at a group picture. There's a character that, and I assume it's the main character. Looks like a pop figure. Is that the main character?
Yeah. Does he have like the little like hat?
Orange hat and like a black orange hat and like a lizard on it?
He's not the main character. Actually, he is the baby mobster. Yes.
I was just like, okay, like there's a pop figure there. Oh,
I mean,
okay.
they could be translated to pop figures now, but I would buy them, but I don't know if other people would buy them. But I guess that's like a unique thing too. Like the art style of the series changed so much. Like at first, like people, like a lot of the baby characters, which there's a reason why they're babies. They are also mobsters. They were almost made into babies to be nerfed by the universe because they were otherwise too powerful and too strong as mobsters to be like
Okay.
let around free. But like the art changed from almost being like closer to almost like Doraemon, like really like kind of blocky and like silly looking to like much more elaborate and closer to like what people kind of expect from like Shonen Jump series by the time
Right.
it ended. But I still the baby designs still kind of make me chuckle. But the main character, he has brown kind of spiky hair.
Okay. Yep, I see him.
Suna. Yeah. Which
And,
is kind of you wouldn't expect it.
and I,
Yeah.
I do see the baby characters. I see a
Mhm.
picture of each of the characters like as a baby apparently, and yeah, they could those baby figures could all be pop figures, like for real. They just have like those big giant eye that pop figures have
They're
for
a
the most
little
part.
eerie at times, especially when you'll see like some of the characters, like another one, Hibari. They draw him like a Tumblr sexy man all the time, but sometimes there'll be scenes where it'll be in one corner this Tumblr sexy man, and then like the weird pop figure looking, almost googly eyed baby, and it'll be like maybe a serious situation, maybe not, but just the juxtaposition between the different types of characters in the series is always like I feel like that's the oddness of it kind of drew me to the series too.
Would you say, like, if people are listening, they're like, "What the heck are we talking about?" Like, would you tell them to like try and track it down, or is this something that's, you know, just so niche that it's just like hard to get into at this point?
I don't think it would necessarily be hard to get into. If anything, the anime is probably the easiest way to get into the series. It's all on Crunchyroll. All the episodes are translated. There's no dub for it for obvious reasons that I discussed, but
Right.
yeah, but it is the anime at least is very easy to watch. The manga, however, it never got a full translation. I like definitely for fan translation sites, the whole manga should be available. But at
Mhm.
the same time, it almost makes me wonder if they're ever going to translate it one day or if it'll need kind of like a TikTok moment of like, hey, do we all remember that one series about like the baby mobster from like the early 2000s? Like that was kind of cool. Like maybe we should bring it back. And even, I guess, the jump from just a kid being bad at everything with a bunch of Italian mobsters around him to the whole cycle of we're going to make you the best mobster ever and we're going to have the whole shonen training arc and fighting bad guys in the future, and then you save the future and you can go to the past, and then there's more mobsters after you. Like there's so much in this series, but I do like look back on really scrambling to finish it before the anime was done airing, because even by the time I caught up on like episode 201, and then the series ended 5 weeks later. And so I caught up just to catch the end of it, which even the anime didn't even get to the end of the manga either, which again, it makes me feel like it's kind of a shame, but at the same time, it ended on a good note too. It ended at the end of a really major arc, so it made sense, but I just it's one of those series I could just like sit out the window and like longingly sigh of like what it could have been, where it could have gone.
I just have that
Mhm.
mental image of like, you know, the clouds in the sky, and you got like the cicadas that, you know, ever present in Japanese anime, and you
Mhm.
just sitting there just like, it's the summer days, it's hot. Let me take it back to when
Mhm.
the mafia anime was on.
Mhm. And even just there were so many shenanigans, even when it came to like fan fiction and doujins, because even then, the way you would have to find ships that you liked from the series, someone in the fandom, like at least on the Japanese side, found it easier to make the characters' names represent numbers, because I guess a lot of them were eerily similar to numbers that you could just write out. So even
Okay.
if you wanted to look up, oh, if I like these two characters and I want to ship them, I'm not Like, even if I say I shipped Suna and Hibari, for example, I wouldn't look up their names. I'd have to look up, it was 1827. So it would have been Hibari Suna, which the numbers would help you go find fan fiction, which as a 7th grader, I don't know. My friend was the one who told me the system and how it worked. But at the same time, I found it so amusing to be like, oh yeah, my favorite ship's 182769. Like,
what?
Because there was another character's name, Mukuro. His name in the fandom was 69. And so, like, it just the whole number system just it adds to the cryptic nature of Reborn. But it is real. Like, people have made like Yahoo answer charts of how to find your favorite doujins for this Mafia series based on characters' names being somewhat close to numbers too. But that's more of like a fun fact than anything.
I'll have to use that like as a trivia one day. It'd be like, what number was this character from Reborn?
I don't know. I would know the answer, but I don't know if a lot of other people would.
That'd be like elite level questions right there. Okay, well, definitely check it out. Crunchyroll. So for the anime, manga maybe not, but you know, I'm sure if people are adventurous, they can track it down.
Like Manga Reader, I don't even know if that site is still up. It's been a while, but someone's probably has that manga out there somewhere to read. Not officially, unfortunately, but you can read it. It's out there.
It's out there. The truth is out there.
Yes.
All right. So we got those two covered. Now we're kind of entering territory of I know of it. I've seen people play some of it, like 4 and 5, I believe. And you're into the Shin Megami Tensei / Persona series, the franchise of video games.
Yes, very much so.
Did you get your start because of GameStop having the flashy imagery and luring you in with Persona 4? Was that your start of this, or was it before that?
No, it was Persona 4 Golden, because even, I guess I brought it up vaguely before, but even all the ads, like Persona 4's main color is yellow, and like a really, really bright shade of yellow, to be exact. And even compared to like other games, which, like, why I was even in GameStop as a kid back then, like my brothers used to really love playing like Call of Duty, and like, I guess when we were younger, things like Nintendo games, Mario Kart, and whatnot. So to kind of like help my brother's gaming addiction, we would always be in GameStop. So when I would visit there every 2 weeks, and I kept seeing this like really bright ad with a bunch of anime characters on it, because even, I guess, before really getting heavily into like JRPGs and visual novels and whatnot, I was really into anime, where I'm like, whoa, like the anime characters look really cool, and I want to play more anime games. Like, that's kind of more my speed versus like Call of Duty Black Ops that my brother would play.
Right.
So I was like, I need to see what's up with this. And I definitely did not have the money for a PS Vita back then, but I saved up for a while and got it a little bit later than it was initially released. And that was the first game I bought from the series.
What? So you got it, you saved up your money, and you're like, I got this game. Was it everything that you hoped for? Was it something that you didn't even expect? Like, because I know loading up certain games and you're like, oh, this is not what I was expecting.
Part of it I wasn't expecting. And I guess certain things were unique to Persona 4 Golden. Like, that game in particular, the opening scenes, and there's a lot of them, especially in Persona 4 Golden. Like, the exposition for that game takes like 2 hours before you even get to really control your character, let alone kind of walk around Inaba. You're just kind of sitting there like, I'm just a dude from Tokyo, and I'm taking the train, and there's my uncle, and we're at the gas station, and now we're at the house. Like, there's just a lot of weird buildup for some reason before actually kind of settling down and being like, okay, this is a Persona game. You can control your character. It is not just a visual novel the entire time. And so that kind of threw me for a loop a little bit. Also, just, I was not very good at JRPGs when I was playing the game for the first time. And so I even had to restart my game file like 2 to 3 times on normal, just because I was like a middle school kid, high school kid,
Right.
trying to play a game that was like meant for older audiences. And even like I had to tone it down to like easy and almost like that safety mode because I was just so bad at the gameplay. Because I didn't realize like, oh, you need to level up your character and grind in order to actually beat the bosses. And there was one in particular I kept getting stuck on, that it was one character who gets accused of doing all the murders that are happening in the game. I guess the whole premise, before I even go into that, it's your guy, he comes in, your high school student goes into a town called Inaba, which is in the middle of the countryside in Japan. And once you get there, there's a string of murders where a bunch of adults get killed. And then you kind of sitting there, you're like, hold on, wait a minute. Like certain things aren't adding up here. And the people that are dying are getting closer and closer to like my close friends and family. And even then, there's also a weird occurrence where before these people die, they show up on the TVs of the town at midnight. And on the channel, they're usually acting very much not like themselves. And it weirds the protagonist out a lot. Until one day he almost is like, wait a minute, that's someone I know. Why are they acting like that? And he actually falls into the TV to an alternate world where then he can go fight in the dungeons basically to save the people that are being completely misrepresented on TV. While he doesn't get to save everybody, like why there's even a string of murders to begin with is the first couple people who are thrown in don't get out alive, unfortunately. But as it becomes more of his friends from his high school, he's just like, well, I don't want my friends to die. And he's able to go in the TV and save them and start to slowly figure out like who done it, basically. Because the person who done it is someone you wouldn't necessarily expect from the role he has. And I'm not going to say who it is, even if it is a game from a while ago, because spoilers are bad. Yeah.
Okay. Now, so you got in with Persona 4 Golden. Did and then you're like, did you go back to some of the older games to play through them, or was it just moving forward from there to like the current stuff?
Okay, yeah. I did go back a bit, which actually I really fell in love with Persona 3 Portable, the game previous to it, which even to this day, there's some rumors going around where they might be remaking the game, which God, I hope they do. It really deserves a remake. But I really fell in love with Persona 3 Portable because it kind of came to me at like a pretty rough time in high school. I had lost the remainder of my grandparents, and the game really features kind of like the inevitability of death, and that like you can try and run from it as much as you can, but certain things like the world isn't always fair and that people close to you will die. But like as long as you're able to like connect with your friends and like almost be like pillars of support for one another, like you can band together and kind of get through anything. Because Persona 3, I guess the main theme is, again, you're a transfer student going to a new school. But again, people keep like there's I guess the odd thing about the game is that, again, like the idea of midnight kind of comes into play, where every midnight, each night, people go and they almost enter like a dreamlike state in coffins, and they don't recognize the world for about an hour. But in reality, some people who have the will of the persona, as like the series like to say, they can go and fight the monsters that are popping up all over the island and kind of threaten to destroy the world by the end of 1 year's time. But obviously, as like the main character meets more friends who have these sorts of abilities and they band together, like people do die along the way, and it sucks. And some of the character deaths, like really, like they still like get me mad, because I guess to really like kind of hone in on that theme of death, despite them all being high schoolers, I feel like it like really struck a chord with me, more so than Persona 4 in some ways. Because while like Persona 3, like there's high school kids or like some that are around like college age, like they do die in game. versus Persona 4, where it's like, oh, all the high school kids live and it's happily ever after. But like Persona 3, like they do lose things, like they go through hardships, especially in, there's a sequel to Persona 3 that was in Persona 3 FES for the PS2 that was called The Answer, which even after things happen to our protagonist in the main game, it's almost a reflection after that from the rest of the cast trying to move on without him being there too. So it was the writing again that really like left a big impact on me, especially because like I was in that age group. I was going through something similar at that time, and just like, especially some of the things that the characters were going through and like almost talking about their feelings or like kind of like their trauma almost. I was just like, bro, me too. The fuck? Wow. I'm feeling that too. Which I guess it's definitely a lot darker than Persona 4, like that much I can say. But I still found it to be such a great game. And at least by that time too, I was a lot more used to JRPGs, so it was a lot easier to play through as well. But yeah, I did really enjoy that. I also played some of Persona 2 at the time, but I ended up watching Persona 1 and both Persona 2 games in the end, because I guess even the common theme of today's topics is that a lot of these series are not super accessible, and it's really aggravating that they're not, because a lot of the stories are like, I feel as though they could relate to a lot of people, if not for the fact that they're scattered on many, in this case for Persona, scattered on many PlayStation systems that are really hard to get your hands on nowadays.
Yeah.
Or even the case of Reborn, where it's hard to find the translations for the manga, and even Zero Escape. At least now it's all on Steam, but before you had to almost buy a DS, then either 3DS or Vita to play the rest of the games, which it's, to this day, I still get frustrated. Like, you'd think for a series with games that have like similar themes or like, or actually just sequels to one another, like why wouldn't you put them all on the same console generation? But I could like just get mad about that another time. But Persona has that same problem, absolutely.
Have you continued with the franchise? Because I know people have been playing like Persona 5, and I think there's like Persona 5 Royale or something along those lines. So have you continued on with the franchise?
Yes, I have. I really, really, really enjoyed Persona 5. Again, my brother had a PS4, which was the way I was able to play Persona 5. And then Royal is a sequel. Well, no, not a sequel. It's a semi-remake with like added content towards the end of the game. And then there's the spin-off Persona 5 Strikers, which is more like Dynasty Warrior style gameplay, but it added a lot more to it as well. So I think it's still worth getting. Yeah.
Whenever I hear Strikers, I just think of like soccer. I'm like, that's such a weird concept for a Persona game, is like a soccer game, but it's not. I just, it's just, my brain connects certain words, and I don't know. What can I do?
But I mean, I guess it's close to the idea of like, you're almost, to initiate battle, like in all of the Persona games, you almost have to like hit your enemy before you get started. So you're like striking them in a way. But it's a little bit of a weird title. Because then I even think of like, isn't there a Mario baseball game that's like Mario Strikers or something like that?
Yeah, see, I think Mario Strikers is the soccer game, because I used to have it.
Oh, no, yeah. I get confused between baseball and soccer, but yeah, that's what I thought of initially too. But Atlas makes choices that I don't know if I would make naming wise, but it's not just for Persona 5 Strikers, but it's kind of been a running issue with their games, but having interesting names. But either way, it is a good game despite the name and everything.
If you could just tell somebody that's listening, like, here's the game that I would play, regardless of like the system or accessibility, like which one would you say, go forth and play this game? Which one would it be?
Because I get torn between Persona 5 and Persona 3. Because at least Persona 5 is probably the most accessible game to get from the Persona series right now. But at the same time, I guess certain things and they are certain things are more lean towards like that anime style kind of game where there's like you can go get your waifus, you can go date them, like there's the whole social link aspect of it. But then when it comes to like almost the weight of the writing and the overall impact it had on me, I feel like Persona 3 definitely left a bigger impact on me. So it almost depends on like the kind of person you are. Like if you're looking to get into a JRPG for like all the bells and whistles, beautiful gameplay, dating sim aspects, I would say Persona 5. But I guess if you're willing to get into a little bit of a darker game and kind of, I guess, think a little more about your own life and mortality, if that's what you're into, Persona 3, I think, is the way to go. That's not to say there isn't a dating sim aspect to it and that there aren't fun moments and whatnot. Persona 3 is a game for the PlayStation 2 and originally with portable, the PSP. So again, unless you've got Dolphin, I don't know how easy it is to get your hands on it, is the point.
Okay. Well, Ash, we're at the time now because you tracked me down on Instagram when I sent out the call for people to be guests,
Mm-hmm.
and you cosplay, you do the cosplay thing,
Mm-hmm.
and I say thing very lightly because it's a lot of very much hard work and dedication for talent and craft and everything else. So I definitely am not a cosplayer. However, how did you decide to get into doing cosplay?
Oh yeah, cosplay was definitely something I kind of stumbled into almost, I guess, out of getting really, really heavily into these like so many different types of series, like even outside of kind of the series I talked about today. I also watched a lot of other shonens, a lot of other like magical girl series, like just kind of everything I could get my hands on anime wise, because I definitely felt, I guess, a lot of insecurity about kind of myself and like how my life was going at that time. And I felt as though like I always looked up to the characters I saw in video games and anime, and I started cosplaying almost out of a desire to like become a stronger person and embody the characters I loved so much, like to almost like pretend to myself like, yeah, I'm really confident, I'm really cool, like I'm not just kind of a kid who's bullied at school for liking weird things that nobody really gets, and instead just being the cool anime characters I like looked up to and wanted to be more like, almost. So that's where I kind of fell in head first, and I even started cosplaying pretty young. I started my first cosplay I wore as like a 7th grader, 8th grader. So even around the same time, I was kind of discovering series like Reborn and the Persona series. And from there, I just kept going deeper and deeper into the craft, the fandom, just everything.
Now, I always like to ask, like, because everyone's got the wide range of characters that they choose to do. How do you decide who you are cosplaying? Is it more of the connection to the character? Is it more, hey, the outfit looks really cool and I'd love to do that? Mixture of both? Like where do you fall on that spectrum?
I feel like it depends on the character in the series for the reasoning. So even nowadays, I tend to cosplay a lot of Love Live, and my desire to kind of cosplay Love Live comes from the fact that they have a million cute outfits and I want to wear all of them. They're really, really cute, and really extravagant in a way that I wouldn't say, for example, like a Jujutsu Kaisen cosplay would be in terms of like elaborate details and whatnot. So for series like that, I tend to fall into the category of just wanting to wear really cute outfits that I wouldn't get to wear normally. But at the same time, I do enjoy cosplaying characters that I really love and respect, like Bruno from JoJo Part 5 in particular. Like he's almost wearing like a seaman suit. Like the little dots on his suit jacket look a certain way and it's a little odd. But at the same time, I respect everything he's ever done and he deserves the world and more. So even if a character design isn't necessarily my favorite for a series, but I really get inspired by their character and just the way that they act and almost embody somebody who I'd want to be, I'll cosplay them. So I would say a bit of a mix of both.
Okay. Is with the cosplay of Love Live, like, because it's always an ever present thing that I stumble across whenever I'm on Instagram is cosplayers that do that, or they're part of like a dance troupe or a group that does the skits at the like at conventions and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
How did you find your way to especially like that one? Because it's something that I've only heard about through people on Instagram. So was it something that you stumbled across, or was it where it's like, oh, like, hey, that person's wearing this cute outfit. Where did it come from?
Oh, that's true. Because, I mean, part of it kind of came from actually getting started with the mobile game. So what really got me into Love Live in the first place was actually the game Love Live School Idol Festival, which is like infamous now for being like money grubbing gotcha at its finest, where you would basically go in every month, try to get the latest cards with like super gorgeous character art, and then go perform in the rhythm game basically with like 9 different cards representing like the 9 members of each of the different Love Live groups that way. But after playing that game for a bit, then watching the anime and almost seeing the series really put a lot of focus on like 9 girls coming together to go do something great and perform on stage and do like almost like take on the world and do whatever they want. Mm-hmm. I was like, I kept thinking to myself, especially as I used to do dance. I did ballet as a kid for almost 10 years, but ended up leaving it because I kind of grew to hate it. Almost like, what if I could go back and almost go back to something I really loved, but have less of the like really intense rehearsals, super strict Russian ballet teachers, and just kind of learn dances with other like-minded people and like wear cute outfits and have a good time doing it, is where I started to look into it. And even some of the first groups I joined doing Love Live dances, like they fell apart pretty easily because trying to coordinate 9 people with really intricate outfits to go perform on big stages is a lot tougher than it seems initially. And even I was never really the one organizing these groups, but more someone who would join in being like, oh, this is really cool, I'd be down to learn this dance and or that dance. And in the end, it took a while for me to find groups that I felt like were consistent and that we were able to rehearse well and then go and actually perform on stages. Mm-hmm. And so in the end, I found it was just a lot of trial and error, trying to look around, especially it was on Instagram, trying to see like, what are the groups that are near me? What can I even like perform in? Like, am I good enough to be like considered to go in and perform with these groups? Which like a lot of that was me very much kind of downplaying myself and just trying to check out the window, the experience I already had doing dance before, when in the end, some Love Live dances really aren't too difficult. When some of them are, definitely, but I feel like there's enough of a range where even if you're not necessarily the best dancer in the world, like there's a Love Live dance you can learn and still feel really great doing, whether that's just on your own time or with all 9 members on stage, you know?
Okay. Mm-hmm. For you and cosplay, I mean, I'm on your Instagram now. Do you have like favorites that you've done, like favorite cosplay outfits or favorite characters that you've represented?
Ooh, in terms of favorite characters that I've cosplayed.
I know that's mean too. Like that's a mean question.
No, I wouldn't say it's a mean question. I've definitely worn a lot. I would almost say some of my favorites would definitely include like Lisa from JoJo Part 2, because I had some friends in college who were the ones who got me into JoJo, and being able to like almost gather the troops together and wear like matching outfits, like especially for part 2, which I find like that whole cast is like crazy. I felt like that was really fun to wear out and just like be able to quote all the iconic JoJo moments, especially with my friend SJ, who would be our Caesar, and just always hearing somebody scream from a distance like Caesar, like to his death scene. I really enjoyed like almost being along for the ride with that, and being able to almost feel like a sexy MILF despite not being anywhere close to MILF age in Lisa. I guess other than that cosplay, I guess if I was thinking more in terms of like outfits I really enjoy wearing, because even now I'm cheating a little bit and scrolling too. I would say a recent favorite would be my Asuna Land Shizuku cosplay, because when the subunits for the third Love Live group, Nishigasaki, were announced, the one subunit, Asuna, had like the campiest outfits out of the 3, and and almost jokingly to myself, they were almost eerily similar to like clown costumes, but just with tons of sparkles, like big frills, like just poofy like pastel colored dresses, and I really enjoyed how they looked, and I loved the song that went along with it, which was all amusement park themed and like again really campy and really cute. So I ordered that costume, and I actually wore it at Anime NYC with some friends. I'm still waiting on getting pictures from that, but I love the silliness, but also just the cuteness of that outfit. So I would say it's definitely one of my favorites too.
Now, and I'm curious because I think I've only talked to one person that did Love Live, and that was many, 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 many years ago.
Mm-hmm.
With the costumes, are they more accessible online for like people to purchase, or is it more that they're still that people that are cosplaying them, are creating them, at home, crafting them?
I would say compared to when I first started cosplaying Love Live, they're definitely a lot easier to get nowadays. I would say like even on Amazon they have a lot available. But generally I tend to get my Love Live cosplays off of AliExpress and Taobao. Taobao being a little bit less accessible because of obviously the language barrier, but AliExpress, even you could just type up Love Live costume and get tons and tons of results, or even if you were getting really specific on certain card sets from the mobile game School Idol Festival or the newer one, All Stars, you can look up specific sets or outfits and find results for almost everything, really, unless you're trying. And especially there are certain sets that are definitely more popular than others. But either way, just from how much people love the series and want to wear these really cool outfits, there's so many Love Live outfits available. So I'd say like even if you're not sure what to wear Love Live cosplay wise, like even just looking up Love Live cosplay, you can go window shopping and see just how many outfits there are and just how many amazing ones there are from the series. Like whether you're looking for Muse or Awkward, Nichigasaki, or even Liela, you have a lot of options is the point. Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely something where I almost find it like overwhelming as far as like just how much there is from this one fandom. It's just a lot. Like holy cow.
Mm-hmm. And I guess even in that way, it is a little overwhelming. But in the end, it almost, for every character, there's almost like any kind of outfit you could throw them in. There's probably a card for it too. So even, you could almost just look for your favorite character and just wear whatever you feel like kind of suits you. Because there's so much. Again, there's so much.
Now, the last question I always bring up with cosplayers is what's on your list? What is on your list? I know we're we're recording in January for this March episode, but for 2022, what are some cosplays that you would love to work on or complete for this year?
Yeah, I definitely have some ideas in the works right now for costumes, which even I am definitely not the best at sticking to cos plans that I have in my head. Especially when like a new series comes out and I'm like, you are my favorite character. I need to cosplay you right now, which could completely throw off everything I'm about to say. But
Yep.
Right now I am looking to finally get Muzan from Demon Slayer at some point done. I also want to cosplay 8-2 from Nier Automata because that has been on my bucket list for a while. And she's a really cool character. And I have her cosplay right now, but where I bought my costume from, I need to make some adjustments to it, but I will get to her this year too. And even just kind of thinking back to Zero Escape again today, there's a more kind of villainous character in the third game, Mira, I really want to cosplay, which I think I'll be kind of going a little bit out of my comfort zone because in the end, she's kind of just wearing a biker jacket, a bikini, and a mini skirt, but she makes it work, and I want to feel more confident, more sexy like she is, where she's very unapologetic in everything that she does, and I feel like it would be a really fun outfit to wear in the summertime, so Mira is definitely on my list too.
Okay. Well, for people that have listened to this podcast episode and they're like, dang, I want to check out what Ash does. I want to tell them all about my experience with the games, or maybe they've watched the anime that a lot of people maybe haven't seen. But for people that are interested in finding your socials, where are you out on the world of the internet?
So you can find me on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at starry_arcana. And that's it.
You make that so easy. It's like, bam, done.
Yeah. It took me a long time to figure out. Maybe keeping the same name everywhere makes it a lot easier to be consistent. But
yeah, that's definitely something that sometimes it's like, oh, I definitely understand. You maybe have started your journey in multiple different social medias at different times.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, awesome. Well, Ash, I will have the links in the show notes and on the Facebook page and website. So that way, if you are listening and want to check out Ash's work, you can do so just by clicking the links. I'll also have the Steam link for the games, so that way you can put it on your wish list, just like I'm going to do in a little bit. And when they have a sale, you can maybe pick it up and check them out, and see if you can beat some of these really hard puzzles. I probably won't be able to, and then I'll get stuck and just like cry for the rest of my day until I quit it.
No, don't quit. It's worth for the plot. Don't quit.
So many endings I'd have to work through. It'd be like, no, like I don't know if I can do that. But Ash, I want to say thank you. Like, thank you for taking the like that first step and saying, hey, I want to be on the podcast, because I appreciate that. That is so wonderful that you reached out, and I'm so grateful for you doing so.
Anytime. Thank you so much for having me on and rambling about series that I don't know if people have heard me ramble so much about before. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Tales from the Fandom. Subscribe to us on iTunes or your podcast app of choice. Follow us on Facebook at www.facebook.com/Tales from the Fandom to see photos, links, leave feedback, and check out upcoming guests. If you'd like to be a guest, email David at talesfromthefandom@gmail.com.